You guys read the book or started looking at it, and then you're like, okay, we're going to do a home birth. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping it was nothing to do with my book.
I mean,
You know,
your book was so helpful for just those resources of they kind of tie in with some of the reasons why we did choose to do a home birth for sure, but it's just so empowering for, women to know if they choose the hospital. But I remember our doula was telling Joe to call our midwife because she's like, contractions are coming every 4 to 5 minutes. And Joe's on the phone with the midwife and he's like, contractions are coming every 45 minutes. And my doula's like, no, 4 to 5, because she's got her South African accent. And Joe's like, 45. And she's like, 4 to 5. And she's like screaming this across the room. And Joe's like, 4 to 5, 4 to 5 minutes.
But the best way to figure out how your baby is doing is their heart rate. That pain, it changes the state of mind you're in. It is your wife who makes the decisions during childbirth. The Childbirth Attorney Podcast, hosted by Gina Mundy.
hey, Liz and Joe, how are you guys?
Hey, Gina.
Hey,
We're good. How are
doing
you?
good.
Well, welcome to the show. Do you want to tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. We are Liz and Joe. We live in Dallas, Texas area. We've been married for 3 years now, and we have a 1-year-old. He's 15 months, and we decided to have a home birth with him for our first time. So
Or-
That's awesome. I published my book. You guys got the book, I believe, is before you guys
it
were
was
thinking of having a baby, or
we
maybe
were we
Joe even.
yeah, we had just found out we were pregnant,
Is
and
that what it was?
your book released. Yeah, it was perfect timing.
You guys read the book or started looking at it, and then you're like, okay, we're going to do a home birth. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping it was nothing to do with my book.
I mean,
You know,
your book was so helpful for just those resources of they kind of tie in with some of the reasons why we did choose to do a home birth for sure, but it's just so empowering for, women to know if they choose the hospital route that they have, you know, they have their decisions and they're able to make those decisions and their rights too.
yeah. So that's a great question, though. Why did you guys choose home birth?
Yeah, so we definitely had been, well, I had been thinking about it for a while. First and foremost, my faith is super important to me, super important to us, and I just felt very called to be in a situation where I had to fully trust God to help me through it. But I also, probably around 2020, I think a lot of people maybe around that same time frame started to kind of just question the medical model. I know for me personally, growing up, I struggled with a lot of different chronic issues, specifically around stomach, and no doctor could really ever diagnose me. It was always band aid problems, it was always just quick fixes, and it just was so exhausting. And so back in 2022, I ended up seeing a naturopath doctor who worked with me. We did blood work, we did GI maps, and it was just so fascinating. I learned so much about just how your body is all connected when it comes to like your gut and your immune system. Like everything just lives in your microbiome. I learned so much throughout that process. And we were trying to get pregnant around that time, and it's you just kind of I think sometimes you just assume that getting pregnant is an easy task, and it's not always the case. And so um going and doing a lot of that research and getting some of those answers, it really had just kind of led me down more of a natural minded holistic approach to things, and it really just kind of stuck out that that was the route that we wanted to go with our birth. Definitely having less interventions, and just really wanting an experience where we could really just feel everything and have a closeness to God.
I love that. That is very powerful. Wow. Um, so you decide the home birth route, like, how do you start preparing for something like that?
Yeah, I remember telling Joe that I kind of felt called for it, and he thought I was joking when I had first brought it up to him. He was just like, "Are you serious?" And it wasn't that he was questioning it, he just was like, "Why would you put yourself through that?" And I feel like that was the response that I got from a lot of people. And so we started and we went, when we found out that we were pregnant, we started off by going to an OB because that's just, what society has us do. And so called an OB, got it scheduled for our ultrasound. We went in around 9 weeks and we got to see our baby. And then I remember we were waiting for a doctor, and I think it was like what, 50 minutes that we waited, and Joe finally went out and, he's like, "Hey, is anybody gonna come see us? We still haven't been seen." And a doctor came in, and Joe, he records his doctor's appointments just in case he forgets something that they say. And so he recorded this one, and it was I think 3.5 minutes long. Like, we waited for almost an hour for somebody to come see us, and it was a 3-minute conversation. And so we really prayed about it, and we were like, let's go interview a midwife. There was a birth center that was about 15 minutes from our house at the time, and it just was such a different atmosphere, different environment. It just felt so personable, and it was just kind of going through expectations, what we could expect of our midwife, what we could expect from just that route, and the care that we would be getting being more in that midwifery style care versus an OB, and it just really aligned with us. And I know it just felt right. Like, it just everything. Our midwife was great, and we felt we really liked her. We liked her philosophy on birth, just the importance of Joe being involved. I think that that was something that really stuck out to us, just how important
Mm.
his role is as the dad, but also as the husband. He's my support system. It's us that we need to be preparing. We can't just put any unrealistic expectations on our midwife team and, our doula once we had gotten one. And that was something that really stuck out with us from the beginning, that it's us, it's our decision that we're doing this. And it's going to be the two of us that are going to essentially make it happen.
Wow. Yeah, much different. So when you went to the OBGYN for the 3.5 minute appointment, well, once you got in, that was your first appointment with the doctor?
Yeah. It was our first
The
appointment,
first
and
prenatal appointment, first pregnancy,
yeah.
3.5 minutes, and then you guys shoot over to see the midwives, and then how long was that first appointment?
It was more of like the initial interview, but it was about 45 minutes to an hour, and, then any appointment moving forward was similar, about 45 minutes to an hour, and it just felt so different. Like, it wasn't just the quick check-in, it wasn't just asking questions to ask questions. Like, they knew us, they knew our situation, they were in, conversation with us, so it just felt different. It felt more connected and personable, which we really appreciated, especially for our first time. We don't know what we're doing. We obviously did a lot of research. I listened to a ton of podcasts, read books like yours, Gina, and it just was we watched a lot of home births. That was part of our prep too. You would be surprised at what is allowed on Instagram these days. I mean, my algorithm really changed for me, and I would send them to Joe, and, we just got to watch all of the home births. I know I watched somebody on Instagram do a live home birth in their backyard. It was actually a free birth where they didn't even have a midwife that was helping them. So just watching positive birth experiences, hearing them from different midwives, it definitely helped to hear from people who had gone through those experiences. It was just more of like an encouragement that it was possible. And the more people that you hear of those positive experiences, it just felt more real that, we could do that too.
Talking to I wanna say it was somebody, maybe, Aunt Sandy, when she first told me, and, talking about people's responses, she's like, "That's the way they're going." And, she's trying to stay positive, but I could see the fear in her eyes, but listening to you guys, I mean, the you just that was your path all day long,
Yeah,
and then
absolutely, and yeah, I know my mom was also not pleased. She was scared for us, and it's just,
Mhm.
it's not a common thing that we hear in today's society. It's not the norm, and so when you hear something that you're not usually exposed to, it does scare you, and it's different, but at the same time, women have been giving birth in this type of setting for years, for centuries, and it's obviously, not every single birth case can have a home birth, and definitely we have a lot of friends and family who absolutely had to go the hospital route, and we're so thankful that that is the way that it is and for Western medicine, but it just definitely it felt right for us, and like you said, it was definitely our path. We felt very led for it, and, yeah, thankfully, everything worked out for us.
good, I love that, and I assume next birth will be home birth?
Yes, yes.
Next I should say next
As long as,
pregnancy.
yeah, God willing, everything is good with baby, and, I know for me, personally, when I was pregnant, I Um, did a lot what from a work like, I did kickboxing and hit workouts until I was 32 weeks pregnant and just walked all the time. So I was constantly moving my body and working out. It's a little different now that I have a toddler running around. My exercise looks a little bit different than a scheduled hit class these days, but preparing your body physically and mentally is just such a big part about the birth prep, and um, that will hopefully we'll be able to do the same thing. That's our plan. We did a water birth, and that was amazing. And I'm sure we'll get more into like the actual birth story later.
That's huge, I mean, no, that's a I think some people don't realize it's like a marathon
It
when you're
is.
giving birth, just physically, so getting your body ready for that is huge, and another thing you did besides your workouts, those are HIIT workouts are insane,
Yeah.
um, so good for you, um, but another thing you did that I really liked was the pelvic floor stuff.
Yes.
What how
Yeah.
did you even get into that? I mean, that was brilliant.
It well,
And you might wanna and I'm saying it like everybody knows what I'm talking about, so you're probably gonna have to
yeah.
explain a little bit about what that is and why you did it.
Yeah, I mean, I have had heard of physical therapy before. I've done physical therapy before, but we were doing a birthing class and they were talking about different things to help you prepare, and they brought up pelvic floor therapy, and they said something that would be helpful is it's just a helpful situation for helping with breathing exercises, pain relief, and then it's a big thing is preparing the muscles for the birth process. I think a lot of people don't realize the pelvic floor itself has to get out of the way when you're giving birth. And like there's just so many different muscles that are internal that are happening during the birth process, and so working out those muscles that aren't normally working out was such a big piece of it for us. But I was so naive. I remember going into my first appointment, our midwife actually partnered with a pelvic floor therapist, so right at the birth center we were able to go right there, and so it was very convenient. I went for my first
Mhm.
time. I had no expectations because I really was like, oh, like uh physical therapy. Like, this is just what it is. And so I went, and the doctor was like, okay, I'm going to leave. Go ahead and just strip down everything from the bottom, and I'll be right back. Get under the blanket on the bed. And I was like, oh, okay, like maybe just like some massage work or something in my pelvic area. And I left my underwear on, and I remember her coming back in. She's like, oh no, underwear too. And I was like, for what? And then I had no idea it was internal, and it was I had not had a pap smear in, like, years, and so it was so intense the way that they would go in and put pressure on muscles and just different things. It was alleviating a lot of the pain that was there and any tightness on muscles that just don't get worked out normally. I mean, your pelvic floor, a lot of have just a weak pelvic floor, you just don't even know because you're not working those muscles as often as you think, but it was so helpful. I give so much credit to our doctor because she was just so smart as well from a just a physiological perspective. She was so big in like the flight or fear, what a fight or
Fight or
flight
flight.
mode, and she just
Yeah.
explained, like, that in such a way when your body is in the birthing stage, how to try to fight through that in a sense of turning off your mind and working through those contractions, because as soon as we feel uncomfort, we tense up, and, like, that is the opposite that we have to do when we're giving birth, and so the way that she worked with muscles and just emotional support for us too. Joe would actually come with me to those appointments and we would practice pain management because it was so uncomfortable. And so he would come and hold my hand, he would do squeezes, he would put pressure on different parts that she would help coach him through that would be helpful during birth. It was just we are so blessed with that experience, and so especially with her. So um, I know that I also had a really bad the baby was sitting on my tailbone, and so I had such terrible tailbone pain, and she actually was able to help relieve that as well, kinda going in there and essentially pushing it back in the most TMI way, just like, being in there, pulling that tailbone back, but I was desperate for relief because it was so painful, but it definitely,
Wow.
got the body prepared for pressure down there.
How many visits do you go to with that pelvic floor?
It depends. We probably started around 28 weeks, I think, and I probably went weekly as we got closer to our due date, and so she was just very helpful, as we got closer to again, with just the breathing exercises, breathing while pushing and stuff. It just was so helpful.
And I like the pain management aspect.
Yeah.
That's huge. I'm not a fan of epidurals. So even for somebody who's giving birth at the hospital, just not a fan because, I think people forget, contractions, are not only hard on mom, they're hard on baby.
Yeah.
So when you get an epidural and you can't feel your contractions, the baby's still struggling with them. So I think it's important that, you kind of feel what your baby, you're feeling that together. And so I'm a huge proponent of just figuring out what kind of pain management, you can try to do prenatally to help, avoid getting that epidural and be able to handle those contractions.
Yeah.
So, wow, this
I'm
is
s
more than just
Yeah.
pelvic floor, I feel like.
It was huge, and I'm so glad you brought that up too because that was one of the podcasts that I had listened to that helped also kind of lead was it's just always stuck to me was your birth is your baby's too. And
Mhm.
like having that understanding of just yeah, like you said, when you have that epidural, it slows things down or the baby kind of goes into distress sometimes because it no longer can kind of feel its mom, and like you said, you have to work together, and that
Yep.
baby, your contractions have purpose, and I think that was again like learning some of the anatomy of that and understanding it was so helpful for us because understanding that your pain has purpose helps you kind of work through it, and with the
Mhm.
contractions, That's what our doula would always say, "You can do anything for a minute." And that's when you have that kind of mindset and you can work through a minute of a high, you're getting up to the high and then it's coming down and you have time to rest in between. Your mindset, it's birth is such a psychological thing. I mean, it's
Mhm.
primarily your brain doing the work and you having to be able to cope that way. Um, and pain management is such a big thing of that. You have to just be able to turn your brain off when those contractions come and think about something else. And so, Joe being there, I know him being as involved as he was probably one of the most helpful things that helped us have a successful birth because I think a lot of the dads don't always feel like they have to be as present because it's not them giving birth, but I mean, Joe had to he was involved in all of the classes, he was involved in watching all of the home births, knowing the terminology and, knowing just me and what I would be comfortable with, but that was definitely helpful. Our doula being there was kind of a support for not just me, but for Joe too, to help kind of lead him to what would be helpful for me in those moments of just pain and trying to work through it.
I'm a huge fan of doulas.
Yes.
How did you find your doula?
We found her through actually the birthing class that we took. She was a Christian doula and we interviewed a couple doulas and we knew that we wanted a Christian and somebody who would help kind of lead us through it that way from a spiritual perspective and she our doula was amazing. We will absolutely use her again for our any of our next births, but she's from South Africa, and so she just
Oh.
had the best accent that just was so
Oh.
soothing to me, like, I just thought it was so great, and that I think was a big piece of when you're looking for a doula, just making sure that you have that personal connection because things are gonna get personal real quick with the doula. You meet them a few times before the birth, and then it's game time and they're way up in that business and they are exposed to absolutely everything. And so it just we had a great relationship with her and she was such good support for Joe throughout the birth and pre prep as well.
Yeah, what kind of, like, pre-prep did your doula do with you, or was it more directing you guys? How did that work?
It was a lot of kind of talking through what our desires and what our goals were for the birth, but then also talking through different plans if it doesn't go the way that we wanted to. So she was very big in that. She was very big in different pain management, things that we could do to be preparing. So different circuits as we got closer to our due date of just kind of natural ways of induction and natural ways to just start getting the baby in the placement that he needs to be, and so she just was a support if I was having any just issues or anything that I just felt off about, she just was always there checking in on me, making sure that I was feeling good, and just really speaking truth over me of just making sure that I knew that I could do it, and, she just was so encouraging, and it was just such a blessing to have her a part of our birth.
Yeah, you got lucky. There's some really great doulas out there, but I think I did one episode on the bad doula.
Mm,
Oh, boy. She was it was and it sucks, for the mom because, it ruined her whole birth experience
yeah.
having the wrong doula.
Your
So,
environment yeah, your environment is so important, and who you choose to be around for your birth plays a huge role in that too, and that was something in a birthing class that we learned too, was just that sacred space that you have. It's gonna whether you have any I know there were some people who, were saying they were gonna have their mother-in-law and their mom and just everybody there for their birth, and ooh, Joe and I were just like, we couldn't imagine. We love, our moms, but it would be a lot. And my mom would be such a nervous wreck that her nerves would essentially, like, just be in that space, I would feel that, and I would feel those nerves, and they just talk
Mhm.
about how that can play such a huge factor, you don't think about it, but if somebody is nervous in that room with you, those vibes go out, and you can feel that, and it will impact you, like, that space has to be so sacred.
You know so much. I feel like you should be a birth coach.
I I researched a
Yeah,
lot.
this is she would we
Yeah.
like, we were really excited for this, and I could tell, like, Liz just is a wealth of knowledge on this, so it's
I disclaimer though, I'm not and this is not medical advice, right? Like
need a 3-hour
I'm not a medical
need
I
a
No.
don't
3-hour podcast.
no, I just very passionate about it and it was I wanted to you when you're going to do this, you have to kind of go all in and it's just you have to take charge of it and I think that was a big thing. We about halfway through our birth, a friend from church pulled me aside and asked to get coffee and she actually shared this story that she had a very traumatic birth experience with our
Halfway through
midwife
our pregnancy.
halfway through our pregnancy. Sorry. We were like 20 weeks. And she pulled me aside and she's
Oh,
like, I just didn't know if I should say something to you, but I just wanted you to know that we had a really traumatic experience with this midwife and we had not, heard anything bad at this point and so we started to kind of get in our heads quite a bit, but that was I think such a pivotal moment for us. Joe was really good with kind of talking, through that with me because I think a big thing that comes down to it is expectations. And we had to make sure that the expectations were not that, yes, our midwife team and our doula plays a huge role in our birth because they're going to be a part of it, but they're not doing the birth for us. Like it's us. He's my support. I'm the one that's doing it. So taking ownership of that and making sure that I was fully prepared for it was a huge thing, and so I went down a lot of different rabbit holes and different things, but it was well worth it for sure because it helped us get a positive outcome, so
so the chick at church tells you about her traumatic experience. You stay with the midwives,
yes.
Yeah. We
and
Was
then
it her
obviously then
midwife?
that's when you
Was it
make
the
it.
same midwife
Yeah.
Yeah,
that she
it
was?
was the same midwife. I mean, we did, a lot of, like, reading and things on it, and we talked together about what she shared with Liz, and, the I think the big thing, like Liz was saying, was expectations, like, do we have our expectations on ourselves or are they on the midwife? Like, we need to know as much as we possibly can for, to go to plan A, and if plan A doesn't work out, plan B, C, D, and things like that. And we need to be go through the process as if we've done this before, in a sense, like, have enough training to be able to recognize different points and everything. Because we don't, we trusted in God, we trusted in the, things we looked into, and the research we'd done, and we knew that, um, as long as we prepared like we thought we should, then, you know, things were gonna
You
be
still
okay.
gotta you still go on your gut feeling with your midwives. The feeling also. Did you get the feeling when you walked into the office and you sat down and you talked to them? It's like a warm feeling, like, okay, this is where we're gonna do this. This is the group we're going with. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like that feeling you got
Yeah,
from her?
we definitely went through that just kind of starting to stress a little bit and overthinking it, but we knew that we had a really good relationship with
Yep.
her and we trusted her. We knew that she had a ton of just experience and she was very well known. She's been around for a long time and so
There were 2 students with her throughout our visit, so
yeah, and we
and,
liked it
so, like,
actually.
we had basically
Yeah.
3 midwives.
It
Uh-huh.
was a good environment and we felt, yeah, we felt cared for, so we didn't stress too much, and I think the big thing again was we knew that we had our doula, we knew that we had each other, and I think a lot of times people don't always, I think more so now, the difference between a midwife and a doula, and that the midwife
Mhm.
is there for the baby. And, yes, they can be supportive to you, but the doula is the one that is there to support you getting through birth. And the midwife is the medical overseer that's making
Yep.
sure that your birth is not going to be a high risk, or that something isn't changing where you're going to have to change to potentially transfer. And so having that, again, that expectation that she's not going to be holding her hand through birth, she's going to be there with her medical advice. It shifts that of, again, it comes down to expectations, putting those types of things where they belong.
That's huge, huge. It's interesting. I love your perspective on it. I feel that if maybe another, you know, first time soon to be parent heard that story, they may have bailed on that
Mhm.
midwife.
Yeah, and I mean, uh, there's a lot of first time home births that
Mhm.
end up going to the hospital, like a very high percentage and everything that don't go through, and they end up transferring to the hospital. So, and we had a plan if that happened too, because we're not anti hospital or anything like that. But the uh we we just followed kind of instructions that we had from the birthing classes and things, and one of the big things is was that you need, like, Liz was staying active, like she wasn't, in the pelvic floor
Mhm.
therapy aspect, like we were trying to do everything we could to put ourselves in the very, very best position to be able to successfully have a home birth, and we felt like we did that. And then, even when you prepare yourself the very best for something, if it doesn't, in the moment, if it for one reason or another has a very legitimate way of saying, hey, you need to go to the hospital, or this is not how it's gonna go, that happens, but we still put ourselves in, we were still open to that, even though we prayed for and wanted the home birth very badly. We were still open to the possibility of, okay, if we if this doesn't go the way we want, things in life don't go the way you want all the time. So just, you have to be prepared to go whichever direction it is taking you, so.
The prep you guys did is so incredibly impressive. I
Mhm.
can't I don't I'm almost speechless on how much you guys prepped. I mean, you guys read my book. The number one lesson is, parents, they don't prepare and they just walk in and they're like, "Here I am." And, that's when the bad stuff
Yeah,
happens. But
The
it's such a disservice to you. I know, and I know that we knew people who were like, "We want nothing. We don't wanna know anything that's going on. We just want to, go in and just let it happen." And I was like, "That is, again, to each their own," but knowing what your body is going to do, I mean, you can only prepare so much. A first-time mom, you don't know what a contraction's gonna feel like. They've explained it to you, but if you can understand why you have contractions, it just
yeah,
sets you up differently because you're just in that mindset of, okay, there is purpose behind this. Like we live
Yeah.
in this society where our everybody just wants to run to whenever we feel a slight uncomfort, we want just to prescribe something, or we just want to fix it immediately. But it's like there are certain times where pain or growth is necessary, or pain or discomfort is necessary for growth. And so it's just, that was one of those things, again, from a natural birth perspective, you feeling it helps, actually. And I know, Gina, in your book, this is not me just making it up, but epidurals lead to higher C-section rates. Pitocin leads to higher C-section rates. And so there's this correlation of when you lose control of your body. And again, I know some people have to go through those routes, right? Like there's not always that choice, but for a mom who goes in and wants a natural birth, she's not always told that an epidural could potentially lead to a higher risk of that, or that Pitocin could potentially lead to that. There's just this lack of understanding of the why. And I think that that's again, like it goes back to me why I went down this more natural minded journey, because I just wanted the root cause of things. I just want the answers for why in these types of moments of just understanding how it all works and understanding why birth is the way that it is was a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, we should talk about the birth because
Yeah.
I think you set yourself up for a pretty good experience. So, how
Yeah.
what happened? Did you just start having contractions or
Yeah.
Well,
So
can we back up real quick? Because
Oh, yeah, go
just
ahead.
from a husband's perspective, from like my perspective, and from like being there as support system, it's funny. Just on a personal side note, because my perspective was going into this was okay. She wants to do a home birth. She's gonna tell me everything I need to know. Just whatever she says, I'll go that route and everything. And then she got upset with me because she's like, "No, you need to know this stuff too. You can't just like listen to me and, you know, not do any like research type thing." And I didn't, I had no idea. Like, again, not a like shameless plug, I guess, but I didn't even know where to start. I was like, okay, I'm Googling like how to be a supportive husband when your wife's having birth or whatever. Like, what? Like, like the worst, like my Google history is probably like, how do I not be an idiot when my wife is giving birth or something like that? And all that. And I just was like rambling for a little while, if you can probably picture that. But I was just like scrambling and I'm like, what? Like, and honestly, um, your book was the first thing that I actually got and read. I got a personal connection because the first part of it, was my cousin having birth and everything, and all that. And I was like, wow, I promised I didn't think I was gonna get choked up during reading this book. But that was really precious to read that story from your perspective and everything with you guys talking, with you on the phone with Kelly and everything during that. I could just picture that whole conversation happening. But the and then that's when I started to read that, and that really helped me get into the mindset of like, okay, I need to know everything. Like my biggest fear going into this in general was that I was going to pass out when Liz was having birth. Like that I thought I was for sure. And then by the time we actually got there, I had watched so many births on line that like and stuff that Liz like held in front of my face to watch, that I was like totally fine. So, but yeah, that's just I, we
No, you know what? I'm so happy you backed up a little bit because I'm like, wait a minute. Well, what did Joe do? Because you know what? Like, because Liz the whole time is like, it was just as important for Joe to be ready and all of that stuff. But obviously you weren't there doing hit exercises, pelvic floor,
I
pain
went to the
management.
class.
So, it was good on how you got ready. So you read my book, and then did you do anything else? Listen to anything? I think you guys had a class, you said, where you met your
We went to
doula.
two classes and then did all the meetings with the doula and the pelvic floor therapist and everything
And midwife.
and the
Yeah.
midwife and all that. Obviously it was right there during the birth, but I had a really important task of inflating and filling up the birthing tub,
Yeah, we'll get to that during the birth.
which was awesome.
He had way more important jobs than that, but he had a fan that he carried around
Oh
and
yeah,
blew me with the fan, so
yeah.
every time it got hot, so
Pretty much I kept my mouth shut, and I had a portable fan, and because as a guy, as a man, as a husband, it it's like, okay, you can do this is great, but when your wife is going through excruciating pain, and I can, it meant a lot coming from the doula, and it meant a lot coming from me. Like Liz loved hearing my encouragement and everything, but the most
Mhm.
encouraging thing I could do was just look her in the eyes and be there and tell her I love her. And I wasn't giving out too many suggestions, or anything, but unless the doula told me to. But I was like, I think it would be better coming from you. But uh, but yeah,
I
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
he
Well,
was
good.
yeah.
Now we get to talk about the what happened.
The birth, yeah, so
Yeah.
the due date was July 6th, and, it was July 4th, so we were started labor that day, and it's funny because my brother was living with us at the time. He had moved down to Texas from Michigan, and so he was back in Michigan that week, so we were like, "Okay, we have a week that we have to get this baby out or else he's gonna be staying at a hotel, like, he can't come back. He's not gonna be in the guest bedroom while
be
we're
in a guest room.
birthing," and
Fine.
so we had that, and we had taken our dog to the kennel for the week, so we were like it was just so peaceful that week. We just were able to have some just one-on-one time and just really be with each other, so we woke up 4th of July, and it's crazy how I can remember all of the details so much, like, it was just such a special day, and, I know I remember, like, I made peanut butter iced lattes that morning, and we spent time in the Word and read our Bibles together and prayed. And then we went out and laid out in the 105-degree sun in Texas in July, and we got our tan on. And then we took a nap, and then I started to feel contractions around lunchtime. And so, one of the pieces of advice that our midwife had given us was when you start to feel contractions, go do something, like, stay
Mhm.
busy. And so we
Very
were like,
important.
"Let's go to lunch." And so we went to one of our favorite burger spots, and it was, like, funny. We were laughing because I'm like, "Oh, here's a contraction," and I'm just sitting in the middle of a restaurant having contractions, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, I think it's happening. I haven't felt, like, this type of contraction before," and so we're just trying to stay busy. We're out walking around stores, and then we're like, "Okay, I think we need to get home," and we had been in contact with our team that day. We had a group chat with our midwife and the students and our doula, and we're like, "Hey, things are moving. I just wanna keep you posted," and they're like, "Okay, thanks for letting us know. Just, keep us posted," and so we had some friends bring us a care package and kinda hung out with us, and our friend, she's a mom of 3, and so she's like, "Yeah, things are moving, like, I can just tell by how you're acting and stuff," and I was like, "Okay, this is good," and so, we ordered, like, to the exact detail, like, we ordered Dickey's Barbecue, we had barbecue, and we watched Talladega Nights, like, that was our 4th of July while I'm having contractions, and then I had called our midwife called because I was like, "Things are starting to progress," and she's like, "Well, I'm supposed to go watch fireworks, like, how much of a progression do you think you're
Yeah,
at?"
I
And I'm
was,
like,
thinking of the holiday thing with the bird. Yeah, you're doing midwife.
"Yeah," and I'm like, "Well, I don't wanna ruin your fireworks, but"
So no fireworks tonight.
I'm like, "I" was
Could
like
watch them at our house.
she said, "I can come check you, but if you are not as far along as you think you are, it sounds like you're using a lot of your energy," and she was very direct with me, which I needed, but I didn't wanna hear that in the moment. I was like, "The audacity, like, to tell me that she just wants to go see her fireworks," and I look back on it, and I'm like, it was exactly what I needed to hear because I was coping so much so early with those contractions of how I was managing it, and so her telling me, like, "You need to conserve your energy right now. Like, you're not far enough along to be using these techniques. And I was like, I'm standing up against the wall, like holding in, and I'm shaking and stuff. And she's like, you've got to conserve it. Like, you have to do better. And so I was like, oh, I will do better. Like, it was like a competition at that point, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I will. I'm about
She
conserving
said that
energy.
the midwife said she was using the energy that she needed to use later in the contractions too early. And so, and again, it's one of those things like that that we hadn't gone through before. So, and now you're going through them, and the whole time we're telling ourselves we're going to be coachable, we're going to have the expectations on ourselves, and we're going to be open to feedback and everything. And so, in the moment when we got that feedback, like Liz was like what, like, and I'm like, okay, let's just be. She knows what she's talking about. Let's be open to this and um, let's take it. Don't take it personally, and just roll with it. And she did an incredible job of just adjusting at that point, and like she like slowed her breathing down and was like a lot calmer. And um, I looked at her and I said, "Okay, tell me when you're having the next contraction." Because it had been like I mean, she was using a lot of energy during the contractions, and then she looked at me and she's like, I'm having a contraction right now. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you're scaring me. Like, she's like, that crazy look of like, I'm having it right now. I was like, where's the screams? Like, how, I was like, aren't you supposed to be screaming? Um,
Ugh.
but yeah,
Yeah. So we were like, "You know what?" She's like, "I can come check you, but if you're not far along enough." And I was like, "No, don't come check me. We're going to bed." And so I was like, "Let's just try to go to bed and progress more." And so we're in bed, and obviously neither of us can sleep. We're trying to, but it was probably around 11 p.m. where we didn't start timing contractions until then, and they started coming every 5 minutes. And so we were texting our doula, and she's like, just, I have my ringer on high. Just let me know when you need more support when things start to go. Because, ideally we want to labor together with just the two of us for as long as possible. Because we just want to get as far along before we need to bring in help and stuff. And so our doula probably got there around a little after 1 a.m. And
oh, that way.
yeah, it was probably like 12:31, and things were really starting to kick up. And so she was now helping with some of those coping mechanisms. We had like a TENS machine, so some of that electric magnetic stuff that was kind of pulsating where I was having some pain. She was doing a lot of different techniques to help, hip pushes and different essential oils she had going, lighting candles. We had praise and worship music going on the whole time, like, just the environment. We had twinkly lights, and we had scripture and prayers that people had sent us before, just kind of posted all around the room. So we had set the room up for just a good environment. And so I kind of did a circuit of lengths on my side on the bed to the toilet, sitting on the toilet, and then the shower, because the water just brought me so much relief. I labored a lot in the shower.
The shower was real
So
helpful.
helpful. It was not for Joe because he had to keep unconnecting the
The hose for
hose for
the
the tub. So he was getting annoyed, but he didn't say anything, bless his heart. So he knew better. But I remember our doula was telling Joe to call our midwife because she's like, contractions are coming every 4 to 5 minutes. And Joe's on the phone with the midwife, and he's like, contractions are coming every 45 minutes. And my doula's like, no, 4 to 5, because she's got her South African accent. And Joe's like, 45. And she's like, 4 to 5. And she's like screaming this across the room. And Joe's like, 4 to 5, 4 to 5 minutes. And so it finally like hit, and the midwife's like, okay, we're on the
I
way.
knew
He knew.
I
He
had
was
been
like, I've
timing the
been timing.
contractions, and it sounded exactly like 45 every time she said it. And I was just copying. I'm on the phone with the midwife, and I'm just copying everything she's saying, and I'm like, "They're every 45 minutes." And midwife's like, "45 minutes is a long time,
She's like,
Joe."
why are you
And
calling
then
me at 2
I'm like, "That's too long." And then she said it
Oh,
again, she's like,
goodness.
4 to
Great.
5 minutes, and I was like, "Yeah, 45 minutes," like, even though I had been timing it. She's like, 4 to 5. And I was like, "Oh, 4 to 5."
So the midwife comes and
I
she
was a nervous
checks.
wreck.
Yeah, I mean it was happening. It was moving, but she comes and she checks me. She's like, "You're 4 centimeters and you are 80% of face." And I'm like, I'm only 4 centimeters. Oh my gosh. Okay. And so the midwife is like, usually we would go home in this situation, but we're already here. And so they just posted up. They just were like in our living room sleeping on our couch while we did everything in the room, in our bedroom, between our bathroom and our bedroom, and so they're just sleeping out there, and our doula, me and Joe are laboring in the bedroom, and we've got tarps down everywhere, and we've got tarps on the bed, and it's, we did the prep that we needed, but we're just going back and forth, and so same circuit, and then an hour later, she checks me, and it's 5 centimeters, 90% of face, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm moving a centimeter an hour, like, this is gonna take forever, and so then my water broke. I was laying on my side on the bed, and I just felt this pop, and I'm like, "Ugh!" Like, it was the weirdest feeling, and I was like my doula's like, "This is good. This is a good sign, like, things are moving," and so she's like, "Let's keep moving around," so she's trying to encourage me to do different positions to help kind of encourage baby to keep moving down, and so contractions are for sure picking up, and then an hour passes, she checks me again, and it's 6 centimeters, 90% of face, and I'm like, oh my gosh, every hour I'm just moving a centimeter, and this is the point, the next 5 minutes, this all happens where I'm looking at Joe, and I'm at my doula, and I'm like, "I can't do this anymore, like, I need to go to the hospital, like, this isn't working, I can't do it," and my doula is like, "You're literally doing it. What do you mean you can't do it?" And I'm like, "No, this is too much," and she's like, "We just need to do some different exercises," and Joe's in the kitchen grabbing a snack, and my midwife is like, "Hey, we need to start considering this might start to get traumatic for her. We might need to transfer her." And Joe's like, "I don't think she's gonna want that." Like and they're just like, they keep coming and checking my blood pressure in the middle of a contraction, and I'm like, of course my blood pressure is gonna be higher in the middle of a contraction, but it's just like it's a blur in those moments, and so this all was happening, and I just remember my doula like, "Do you wanna go outside and watch the sunrise? It's like 6 a.m." And I was like, "No, I don't wanna watch the sunrise, I just wanna lay down." And so I lay down, and all of a sudden, my body is just pushing, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm pushing," like, I'm like, I just was and my midwife comes running in. This was 5 minutes after she had just checked me, and she checks me, and she's like, "Let's fill the tub, we're having a baby." I went from 6 to 10 centimeters in 5 minutes. Like, it was truly I get chills thinking about it, like, it was such a God thing. I was not gonna be able to do it, but it kind of, like, brought me this peace because I was like, it was so intense. She kept trying to get me to do all these different positions, and I was like, "I physically cannot do that position, like, the baby is right there, I can't lift my leg up." And so, I'm like, this is the craziest thing. Joe's like, "Okay." He starts to fill up the tub, and I'm not kidding, I fell asleep on my bed. My doula took a video of me snoring while they're filling the tub. I'm like 10 centimeters in transition, ready to push, and I am asleep. Like, it was in insane, and I think I just needed that reassurance that I was actually there, and so it took probably, like, 20 minutes to fill the tub, and then I got in the water, and it was instant. Like, I pushed 3 times. I think it was, like, 5 to 10 minutes from the time I got in the water to delivering our baby, it was like 5 minutes and 3 pushes. It was insane. It happened so fast, and I caught the baby myself, so I'm sitting in the tub, and I'm, like, trying to figure out what's comfortable, like, I'm like, "Okay, this is happening," and so the midwife was like, "Go on your knees and just, like, put pressure," and this is another tip that was so helpful for me. One, the water itself is just such a healing element. It was so helpful. It felt so like, from a pain management perspective, it was just it was so nice to be in the tub in the water. The temperature was perfect. Like, it was perfect, but I put pressure, my midwife coached me, put pressure where I was feeling pressure. So I had one hand putting pressure and then another hand getting ready to catch the head. And so I'm sitting there and I start pushing and then I feel the head and everybody's like, "Oh, do you feel all that hair?" And I'm like, "I don't know what I feel. Like I feel it. This is a weird feeling. I don't know, like, sure, there's more than just hair, I don't know." And then I pushed 2 more times and he's completely out, and with the water birth, you have to make sure that the baby stays fully submerged in the water, because once the baby comes out of the water, that they can't go back in because then they'll swallow it. So, they don't take their first breath until they're out of the water, and so I had to make sure that he was under the whole time and then lifted him up, and the endorphin rush that you feel in that moment, like the shock that I had that of what just happened, and I look over and I see Joe just bawling. He is making noises that I've never heard from him before. He's just, like, wailing, looking at this, and I'm in shock. Like, my eyes are just like, "What just happened?" And yeah, he was out and everything was good, and we sat in the tub for a little bit, but then we moved to the bed, got him latched, and everything was good until this is the part that, sometimes we don't understand, like, that birth doesn't end until you deliver your placenta. And so you're technically still in labor until your placenta comes out. And so we kept him attached to the placenta until it fully turned white and it stopped pulsating. So we did a delayed clamping. Joe got to cut it himself. And then they're like, "Okay, it's time to deliver the placenta." And it would not come out. Like, I don't know if my body just did not
Almost
realize.
had to go to the hospital because the placenta wouldn't
Just
come.
yeah, so we're doing everything. So Joe gets to have all the skin on skin time with, our baby, and then I'm, like, moving to the toilet, and they're giving me all these herbs. They end up giving me Pitocin because they're like, "We've gotta get this placenta out of you," and it's going on, like, 45 minutes, and my midwife is like, "Look, we might have to go to the hospital if you can't get it out, like, we're getting to the point," and I was like, "I just birthed the baby at home. There's no way I'm going to the hospital for a placenta." And so I just, like, again, that
Right?
like, I just am a competitive person, I guess, and I just was like, this is not happening, and so I'm just, like, on the tarp in the bedroom, and I'm just like, "I'm gonna push this," and I just push it out, and it was, like, almost to the hour that we were trying to get the placenta out, and it finally, like, the relief that I felt in that moment of the placenta being out, it was crazy because it was just so stressful. I'm like, I pushed a baby out in 3 pushes and I could not push out the placenta.
You're
It
such
was wild. And not something that you can plan for at all. You don't think about that, but we did it.
wow. I feel like I'm
It
speechless.
was a wild,
I know.
wild night.
Wow. That's beautiful. Your story is
It
amazing. I love everything about this
it
episode.
was
From everything you guys did to the birth. Oh my
yes.
goodness.
It was
So then let's see, what time did you have Cooper?
7:53 a.m.
yeah, so what time
AM.
did we get in the tub?
The tub we were at time of birth was 7:53 on July a.m. on July 5th, and the
Got in the tub at 7:40. I was only in
yeah
the tub for
7:40.
13 minutes before he was out. It
Wow.
was crazy. It was beautiful, and it was just again, that I was so nervous for the pushing part. I was not as worried about the contractions because I was like, "Oh, period cramps," and I had chronic stomach pain my whole life, but they're no joke. And, they need
Mhm.
to be prepared for, like, you have to have a pain management skill, and you have to, like, again, just being able to fully surrender that was just one of those moments of just it was so surreal. Like, it just you have to be able to just completely shut it off, but the pushing was the easiest part, I guess, for me, which is crazy because I was so nervous about that part. I was like, "I'm gonna tear, it's gonna be weird, like, I don't know." But
Right. Wow. And then the fact that you progressed from 6 to 10
in 5 minutes.
that
Yeah,
quick.
it was
I mean, that is
yeah,
really quick.
it was crazy.
That is like, "Let's
It was
go.
crazy.
I'm ready." Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, that was a great
Thanks.
story. And then yeah, I love this part. So you fast forward to a year and Cooper's first birthday party. I remember scrolling on social media, Cooper's holding a steak.
He loves steak. That is he had a big ribeye for his birthday cake, you know? His first food was, uh, steak, butter, and, bone marrow and beef tallow. So he's a little carnivore, but he's a big healthy boy, so it's worth it, I guess.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Now with the pregnancy or the birth of Cooper, I mean, is there anything that you, looking back, you would have done different?
Man, that's such a good question because honestly, like, we just feel so blessed that we had the experience that we did, and it's hard because, birth is such a can be such a sensitive topic because it's such a sacred thing, and there are a lot of traumatic births that happen out there, and um we're just so, thankful that it went the way that we wanted, but that's not to say that, we'll be in a position again that we maybe aren't able to have a home birth, and that's okay. But I think we'll plan on doing essentially very closely the same thing. I think, if anything, to not just be like, oh, we did it once, like, we're good, we can do it again. It's just kind of having that same mindset because it's truly training your mind and preparing you mentally. It's the biggest thing. And so, um, obviously, staying physical and moving and exercising is gonna be super important, but the big thing is just being mentally strong, and so just making sure that we continue to do that the next time too, and prepare the same way, so
I can't think of
Yeah,
anything
you did a
that
lot.
we would do differently, but I'm sure there was something like,
Mhm.
we aren't perfect.
No.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on and sharing your story and the amount of information that you just shared with my audience and the tips. I mean, because my last question was going to be, well, are there any other tips? And I'm like, I just don't think there's any other tips. I mean, you
Oh,
were so comprehensive in your
covered
explanation.
everything and then some.
Well,
I know. I'm like, I have a whole page
oh
of
my gosh. Well,
notes.
thank you again.
I know. I am just so yeah, but I want to, thank you guys for coming on. But probably one last question would be, if there's a couple and they're expecting their first baby and they're like you, they've done their research and they're in between
Mhm.
hospital, home birth, and they're just trying to make that important decision. Do you have any advice for
Yeah,
them?
I mean, I think I'll go first, but I would just encourage them to, one, research and hear from midwives who have switched over to midwifery care that were in that hospital setting first, and just see the difference of what you're able to have, especially if it's something that you desire. I think writing down your whys, why you want to have a home birth, is really important, because in those hard moments, it's different. It's not conventional in the way that society tells you to have a birth. Again, people are going to question it. People are going to look at you weird, like, why would you do that? You don't, I know, or the one, you don't get a medal for that, and it's like, you've got to be mentally tough because people don't understand it, but it can be such a sweet and sacred and holy thing if you want it to be. And I just want to encourage and empower women, like, if you have that desire, that there's teams out there that can help support you. And there's so many resources, there's so many good podcasts, there's books like yours, Gina, and it's just, there's women out there that are doing it a different way. Like, there's an alternative to what you've been told and what you've been shared. And you can look into it and you can see there's success and there's beauty in it. And it just is, again, it's not gonna always maybe go as planned, and you have to be okay with that, but I think that comes with the mental aspect of it. And we prayed a lot through it, and we were on the same page. Um if your husband or your partner is not on the same page about it, like, you've gotta get on it, because he has to be in full support of it. You guys have to be fully on the same page, because it takes both of you committed to making it work.
So, so thank you guys for coming on the
Yeah.
show. And if you're watching it today on YouTube or Spotify or whatnot, thank you for listening. And then please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want more information on me or what I'm doing or any of that good stuff, you can always hit ginamundy.com, GINAMUNDY. And I'm sure my producer Anthony has put a bunch of stuff in notes that you can look at if you want more information on social media handles, all that good stuff. So until the next episode, everybody take care, hug your kiddos, and have a great day.
Amazing. Thanks, Gina.
Bye.